Welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about Tacker's trials for set 13, and I really want to focus on score optimization and looking at the highest leaderboarding scores and how to get there. First of all, I want to talk about what Tacker's trials is. Tacker's trials is a PvE game mode where you have 3 lives, and the goal of the game mode is to complete 3 stages and maximize your score. Talker's Trials is scored on a handful of things. The most important metrics for score are item greed and unit star level. Item greed is where you gain score per component you have on your bench. This becomes very valuable in pushing a higher score than just completing Talker's trials because you can stack up more and more points the more and more items you have. Unit star level is another important metric. If you find a way to get infinite money, unit star level is one of the best ways to maximize your leaderboard scores, and this was very, very prevalent in set 12. Now that I've given an overview about what Talker's trials is, I want to talk about some standout traits. First of all is Chem-Baron. Chem-Baron was changed from the base game to Talker's Trials because obviously you only have 3 lives in Talker's Trials. Chem-Baron is a trait based on loose streaking in the main game, but now that they've brought it into Talker's Trials, they kind of had to adapt it a little bit so that you don't need to lose streak to get value out of this trait. Now this trait is built around marginally winning, and what I mean by that is that you get bonus shimmer every time a unit on your team dies. And so you want to win with the most amount of your units dying while running Chem-Baron to get a bigger cash out. But why this trade is also very useful for Talker's Trials is that we mentioned before that one of the scoring metrics is item greed. If you're able to utilize Chem-Baron to get high shimmer and big cash outs, you're able to get more items to scale that item greed even higher. Some other standout traits that kind of do similar things are Academy and Scrap. Academy, every time you activate this trait, you get 1 of 3 Academy items. And if you reach Max Academy, which is Academy 5, then you are given 3 bonus items, all 3 of those Academy items. And so this is maybe a smaller bonus. This is useful in some places where you're able to tack in Academy here or there and get a bonus item just to give your board a little more strength without using any of the items on your bench. Scrap is another trait that is very similar, where instead of giving you whole items, Scrap turns your components into whole items. Scrap enables you to get completed item value without having to craft items as a whole, and you're able to leave some components more on the bench. The problem I see here with Scrap is that you can't stack components on a single unit. Obviously, if you do that, the components will just combine into whole completed items. And so the weakness here is that you kind of have to spread your items out, and that doesn't really help you when there's a lot of value in TFT of itemizing a single unit for your carry or a single tank for your tanking. And so that's kind of the weakness of Scrap. Conqueror, I think, is one of the biggest traits for this game mode. Conqueror is a trait that when you other units, you gain Conqueror stacks. And once you gain certain breakpoints of Conqueror stacks, you get some cash outs. And it's very easy to guarantee this because if you're playing this game mode, since it's not PvP, it's a PvE game mode, you're likely to be winning every single round. Another thing about Talker's Trials is that the combats that you're playing are very unusual at times, where these won't be standard boards that you'll see. But there's a round in Talker's Trials for set 13 where you're just fighting against like 15 Dravens. And so you can imagine with Conqueror, you gain Conqueror stacks per of a unit. If you have rounds like this where there are just a ton of units, so you're getting a lot of value and getting a lot of Conqueror stacks. Talker's Trials this time around doesn't scale as high as it did in set 12, where there was a chaos mode before. But this time around, it's similar to scaling of a normal TFT game. There are still a lot of ways to reach high caps because you're still given a lot of high variance items like artifacts or spatulas or pens. Thinking about Conqueror, we can look at the trait breakdown, the Conqueror stacks that you gain per unit. scales depending on how many Conquerors you have. Conqueror is also a chase trait, which means that if you manage to get 3 Conqueror emblems, then you can hit Conqueror 9 and multiply your Conqueror stacks by 20, which is insane. And so this is a really, really great way for you to reach high stacks for Conqueror, which means high damage for your team, but also a lot of cash out. Another avenue of reaching really high scores, and probably one of the higher caps, even compared to Conqueror, is reaching 3 Tacticians items. With the introduction of the pan in set 12 as a counterpart to the spatula, this introduced new crafting recipes for emblems, but also this introduced new crafting recipes for Tacticians items. Before, there was only the Tactician's crown, which was made with 2 spatulas, but now we have more recipes that have been introduced. With certain combinations of a spatula and a pan, or a pan and a pan, and a spat and a spat, now we have the Tactician's crown, we have the Tactician's shield, and we have the Tactician's cape. And so these 3 items all kind of serve the same function. They increase your board size by 1 and also give you an avenue of generating 1 gold per round. But there is a kind of Easter egg hidden in the game where if you are able to get all 3 of these items and place them all on 1 unit, that unit will constantly throw out gold. And this is a really great way for you to generate a ton of gold. If you have a lot of gold, you can go to the max level and just reroll for 5 costs infinitely. However, this strategy is not very consistent because it's going to be very, very hard for you to play a run of Tacker's Trials and expect to get all 3 Tacticians items, because when you think about it, that's 3 spatulas that you need to get and 3 pans, and that's just a lot. This is like something to look out for if you're ever in a situation where you're just getting spats and pans from Tacker's Trials, but it's very hard to expect. But what we can expect is that those runs that have the 3 Tacticians items will probably be the highest of the leaderboard. If we look at the top 5 scores right now on the NA leaderboard for Tacker's Trials, we can see that 4 out of 5 of them are being played with Conqueror. And the other one, the only outlier, is the one that's being played with 3 Tacticians items. And so it's very clear to see that these are great ways for you to scale up, get free items, and get a lot of money so you can start 3-starring multiple 4 costs and multiple 5 costs just to get more and more score throughout your game. Anyways, that's just what I've noticed so far in my initial digging through and research for Tacker's Trials and optimizing score. Please comment below if you were able to use any of my advice from this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.